Part 1. The darkness in space was complete and silent. A massive ship drifted through the void like a dead thing. Its hull was torn and broken in many places. Large sections were open to space, showing the twisted metal inside. No lights shone from its windows. No signals came from its communications arrays. To anyone watching, the ship looked like a tomb. The alien species who found it first called it many names. The Vryn scientists named it the Silent Wanderer. The Kelari warriors called it the Death Ship. But the name that stuck was simpler and more frightening. They called it the Ghost Ship. 3 times the Vryn had sent teams to explore it. 3 times those teams vanished without a trace. The Kelari sent their bravest soldiers next. They disappeared too. After that, the Galactic Council made a law. No one was allowed near the ship. No one was to disturb it. The humans who built it were gone, dead in their war against the Devourers. The ship was their grave marker, and it should be left alone. But deep inside the ship, something was changing. In a dark room filled with rows of white pods, lights began to blink. Green at first, then turning amber. One pod opened with a hiss of escaping air. Cold mist poured out onto the floor. Jake Morrison gasped as his eyes opened. His chest hurt. His throat burned. Every muscle in his body felt like stone. He tried to move but could barely lift his hand. The pod's lid was open above him, and he could see a red emergency light glowing in the ceiling far above. "Computer," he tried to say, but only a croak came out. He swallowed and tried again. "Computer, status report, nothing." The computer was dead or offline. Jake forced himself to sit up. The world spun around him. He gripped the edge of the pod and waited for the dizziness to pass. Around him, other pods were opening. More cold mist, more gasping sounds as people woke up. "Jake!" A woman's voice came from his left. "Is that you, Lisa?" Jake turned his head slowly. Commander Lisa Bennett was climbing out of her own pod. She looked terrible. Her skin was pale and her eyes were sunken. Her uniform hung loose on her thin frame. But she was alive. "You made it." "Barely," Lisa said. She stumbled and caught herself on the edge of her pod. "How many others?" Jake counted the pods with green lights. 12 in this section. Maybe more in other sections if the emergency systems worked there too. "We need to get to the bridge," Lisa said. "Find out what happened." "How long we've been out?" Other crew members were waking now. A young man named Pete Collins, who had been their weapons officer. Carmen Blake, the medical officer. Tony Walsh from engineering. All of them looked as bad as Jake felt. Weak, confused, and scared. They helped each other stand. Carmen checked everyone quickly, using a small medical scanner she pulled from a wall panel. "We're all alive," she said. "Malnourished and dehydrated, but alive. We need food and water soon." "First the bridge," Lisa said firmly. "We need to know where we are and what shape the ship is in." The walk to the bridge took 30 minutes. It should have taken 5. But the ship was dark except for emergency lights. Several corridors were blocked by debris or sealed by emergency doors. They had to find alternate routes. The whole time Jake noticed how quiet everything was. No hum of engines. No sound of air recycling. Just silence and their own footsteps. When they finally reached the bridge, they found more crew members already there. And they found Captain Henry Blake sitting in his command chair, staring at the dark view screen. Henry looked older than Jake remembered. His hair was white at the temples now, but his eyes were still sharp and alert. "Morrison," he said. "Good to see you made it. Bennett, Collins, all of you. Welcome back to the land of the living." "Captain," Lisa said, "what's our situation?" "That's what we're trying to figure out," Henry said. He pointed to where Nina Cortez was working at the navigation station. The young woman was typing commands into a console that flickered and sparked. "Cortez is trying to get main power back online. So far, we've only got emergency systems." "How long were we out, sir?" Jake asked. Henry was quiet for a moment. "We don't know yet. The main computer is offline, but based on the ship's decay and the fact that we're still alive at all, I'd guess it's been a long time. Years, at least. Maybe decades. The word hit Jake like a punch to the stomach. His parents would be old or dead. His friends gone. Everything he knew changed or destroyed. "Sir," Nina said suddenly, "I've got partial sensors back. You need to see this." Henry stood and walked to her station. Jake and Lisa followed. On Nina's screen, star positions were displayed. But they were all wrong. The constellations Jake had memorized during his years in space were completely different. "I've been trying to match our position to known star charts," Nina said quietly. Captain, based on stellar drift and position, I think we've been asleep for approximately 70 years. 70 years. The number was impossible. Unthinkable. Jake felt his legs go weak. He grabbed the back of Nina's chair to steady himself. 70 years, Lisa repeated. Everyone we knew is gone. Earth might be gone. Earth isn't gone, Henry said firmly. We would know. We would feel it. Earth is out there somewhere, and we're going to find it. Sir, with respect, Pete said. Look at this ship. We're barely holding together. Main power is offline. Engines are cold. We don't even know if the faster-than-light drive still works.
How are we supposed to get anywhere?
Henry turned to face his crew. All of them were watching him, waiting for him to tell them what to do, waiting for him to give them hope. I'll tell you how, Henry said. The same way humanity has always survived. We work together. We fix what's broken. We adapt, we endure. Yes, we've been asleep for 70 years. Yes, the galaxy has moved on without us. But we're still here. We're still breathing. And this ship, as damaged as she is still ours. The USS Endeavour has carried us this far. She'll carry us home. But Captain, Carmen said, home might not exist anymore. The war with the Devourers was going badly when we went into cryo. Earth might have fallen. Maybe, Henry admitted, but maybe not. And we won't know until we get there. So here's what we're going to do. Engineering team, get main power restored. I want that reactor online within 3 days. Navigation, plot a course to Earth. Use whatever star charts you can recover. Weapons, check our defensive systems. Medical, make sure everyone is fit for duty. And Morrison, I want security teams ready in case anyone comes knocking while we're repairing. Sir, Jake said. Who would come knocking out here? Henry looked at the view screen, at the darkness of space beyond. We've been drifting for 70 years in unknown space. Someone must have noticed us by now. When main power comes back online, they'll definitely notice us. I want to be ready for whatever happens next. The crew scattered to their assigned tasks. Jake organized security teams and began checking the ship's weapons lockers. Most of the small arms were still functional, though the ammunition was old. The ship's main weapons were offline, but Pete thought he could get them working once power was restored. Over the next 2 days, the ship slowly came back to life. Danny Rodriguez, the chief engineer, worked miracles in the reactor room. The old reactor had been damaged in whatever battle had crippled the Endeavour, but Danny and his team patched it together with spare parts and determination. On the 3rd day, the reactor came online. The deep thrumming sound echoed through the entire ship. Lights flickered on in sections that had been dark for decades. Computer systems booted up. The view screen on the bridge activated, showing the star field outside. And that's when the sensors picked up the incoming ships, 5 of them moving fast. 3 were clearly military vessels. 2 were smaller, probably civilian. Captain, Kate Sullivan said from the communications station. We're being hailed. Multiple frequencies. They know we're here. Henry sat in his command chair and straightened his uniform. After 70 years of silence, humanity was about to speak to the galaxy again. Open a channel, Kate, he said. Let's see what they want. The face that appeared on the view screen was not human. The creature had scales that shimmered in different colors. Its eyes were large and dark. When it spoke, a computer translated its words into English. Unknown vessel, this is Ambassador Kara of the Galactic Council. We detected your power signature activating. Please identify yourself and your intentions. Henry stood before the view screen. He was aware of how he must look. His uniform was 70 years out of date. His ship was barely holding together. But he stood straight and spoke clearly. Ambassador Kara, I am Captain Henry Blake of the United Earth ship Endeavour. We are survivors of the war against the Devourers. We intend to return to Earth. The alien scales changed color rapidly. Surprise, Henry guessed. Behind Kara, he could see other aliens moving around on their ship's bridge. They all looked shocked. Captain Blake, Kira said carefully. You are far from Earth, very far. Your ship appears damaged. How do you plan to make such a journey? One jump at a time, Henry replied. We've come this far. We'll find a way to go further. There was a long pause. Kara turned and spoke to someone off-screen. Then she looked back at Henry. Captain, the galaxy has changed in 70 years. There are things you need to know. Would you allow me to come aboard your ship? I promise you will be safe. I only want to talk. Jake stepped closer to Henry and spoke quietly. Sir, it could be a trap. We don't know these aliens. True, Henry said. But if they wanted to destroy us, those 3 warships out there could probably do it. We need information, and she's offering it. He turned back to the view screen. Ambassador, you and 2 others may come aboard. No weapons. We'll meet you at our main airlock in 1 hour. Agreed, Kara said. Thank you, Captain. After the screen went dark, the bridge erupted in quiet conversation. Nina was pulling up star charts, trying to figure out where they were. Carmen was reviewing medical supplies, wondering if they had anything that would work on alien biology, in case someone got hurt. Kate was scanning all the communication channels she could find, listening to alien broadcasts and trying to understand the new galaxy they had woken up to. Captain, Nina said, I've been calculating distances based on what little star data I have. If Earth is where it should be, we're looking at 700 light-years away. Maybe more. How many jumps is that? Henry asked. At least 14, maybe 20, Nina said. And that's if our faster-than-light drive can still make the jumps. We won't know until we try. Plus, we'll need to stop for repairs and refueling between jumps. This could take months, Henry nodded slowly. Months of travel through unknown space with a damaged ship and a tiny crew. But they had no choice. They had to try. Danny's voice came through the ship's communication system. Captain, I've got main power stable for now. But if we get into any kind of fight, we'll drain our reserves fast. And I mean fast. We might get 10 minutes of full combat power before we're running on fumes. Understood, Henry said. We'll avoid combat if possible. Jake, get a security team to the airlock. Keep it friendly, but be ready for anything. An hour later, Henry stood in the airlock with Jake and 4 armed crew members behind him. They wore their old combat armor and carried rifles. The weapons were old but well-maintained. When the outer door opened, 3 aliens entered. Ambassador Kara came first. She was taller than Henry had expected, perhaps 7 feet tall. Her scales were now a calm blue color. Behind her came 2 others. One was small, barely 4 feet tall, with large eyes and soft fur covering its body. The other was massive, easily 8 feet tall, with 4 arms and armor-like skin. Captain Blake, Kara said, thank you for receiving us. This is Scholar Pip, who studies human history, and this is Commander Torvis, who leads our military escort. Henry nodded to each of them. Welcome to the Endeavor. I apologize for the condition of things. We're working with limited resources. No apology needed, the small one called Pip said. His voice was high and musical. Captain, your ship is legendary. For 70 years, ships that came near it vanished or fled in terror. We thought it was haunted by ghosts. To find you alive is remarkable. We're too stubborn to die, Jake muttered. They walked through the ship's corridors to a conference room. It was one of the few rooms that Danny had managed to get fully repaired. The lights worked. The table and chairs were clean. There was even coffee, though it was 70 years old and tasted terrible. Once everyone was seated, Kara began to speak. What she told them changed everything they thought they knew. The war between humanity and the Devourers had ended in mutual destruction, but not complete destruction. Earth had survived. Barely. The Devourers had attacked Earth itself in the final days of the war. Billions of humans died. Cities were destroyed, but humanity had held. And when the Devourers pulled back to regroup, humanity's remaining fleet ships had pursued them. Your fleet chased the Devourers to the edge of known space and beyond, Kara explained. Every human ship that went after them vanished. We thought all of you were dead. The Devourers were destroyed completely. They are extinct. But we thought humanity paid the ultimate price to achieve that. And Earth? Henry asked quietly. Earth survived, Pip said. Your people rebuilt. But the cost was terrible. Your population was reduced to less than 1 billion. Your technology was set back decades, and your people decided that the galaxy was too dangerous. Earth closed its borders. They defend their solar system fiercely but venture no farther. They became isolationists. Henry felt something break inside him. They had won. Humanity had survived. But at what cost? And now Earth had turned inward, hiding from the galaxy they had helped save. There's more, Kara said gently. Your ship represents something important. The technology aboard the Endeavor is 70 years more advanced than what Earth currently has. When humanity rebuilt, they had to start from almost nothing. If you return home, you bring them weapons, knowledge, and ships they don't have anymore. So we're valuable, Lisa said flatly. You're more than valuable, Pip said earnestly. You're proof that humanity's warriors are still out there. that the species that defeated the Devourers didn't completely die, that the fire that drove humans to fight so hard is still burning. What about the rest of the galaxy? Henry asked. How do you all live now? Torva spoke for the first time. His voice was deep and rumbling. The Galactic Council maintains peace through cooperation. We work together, share resources, resolve conflicts through diplomacy. War is rare now. The Devourers taught us all the cost of violence. Sounds peaceful, Jake said. It is, Torvus agreed. Perhaps too peaceful. There are those who see our peace as weakness. The Vex Supremacy is one such group. They believe in strength above all. They have been expanding their territory and ignoring Council authority. Some say they search for Devourer technology to weaponize. And what does the Council do about them? Henry asked. We negotiate. We embargo. We sanction, Kara said. But we do not fight. We remember what fighting cost us all. Henry leaned back in his chair. He was beginning to understand the galaxy they had woken up in. It was gentler than the one they had left. The brutal war against the Devourers had taught everyone to value peace. But peace only lasted when everyone respected it. And it sounded like the Vex Supremacy did not respect it. Ambassador, Henry said, we appreciate this information, but we still need to get home. Can your council help us with that? Yes, Kara said immediately. We can provide supplies, repair assistance, and safe passage through council space. In exchange, we ask only that you allow Scholar Pip to document your journey, to understand what drove humanity to fight so hard, to learn from you. Henry looked at his officers. Lisa nodded slightly. Jake shrugged. Nina looked hopeful. They all wanted the same thing. To go home, agreed, Henry said. We'll work together. Over the next week, the Endeavor became a strange meeting place between species. Alien engineers worked alongside Danny and his team, marveling at human ingenuity. Kate established communication protocols with council ships, learning their languages and systems. Jake trained with Kalari warriors, teaching them human combat techniques and learning their fighting styles in return. But the most interesting partnership was between Danny and a Vryn engineer named Seklar. The alien was fascinated by how humans fixed things. You used what? Seklar asked one day, staring at a repaired plasma conduit. Magnetic tape, wire, and hope, Danny said cheerfully. It's held for 70 years, hasn't it? This violates 17 safety protocols, Seklar said. Probably, Danny agreed. But it works. Sometimes the best solution isn't the proper one. It's the one that keeps you alive. Nina worked with council navigators to plot their route home. With their help, she reduced the number of jumps needed from 14 to 9. But there was a problem. Captain, Nina said one evening, jump number 7 takes us through Vex Supremacy space. There's no way around it unless we add 4 more jumps through unexplored territory. How dangerous is Supremacy space? Henry asked. Kara, who was present for the meeting, changed her scales to a dark purple. Worry. They are hostile to council vessels. They might see your ship as a prize. A human warship would be valuable to them. Then we go through fast, Henry said. We jump in, get through their territory as quickly as possible, and jump out. That's risky, Lisa said. The Supremacy Commander's face twisted into something that might have been a smile. You humans are extinct. Your Earth is a broken world hiding in fear. You have nothing to return to. Surrender now, and we might let your crew live. Henry felt anger building inside him. This alien knew nothing about humanity, nothing about what they had endured or what they were capable of. He leaned forward in his command chair. Danny, Henry said quietly into his communicator. Full power to weapons and shields. Kate, open a channel to the Council escort fleet. Nina, plot emergency jump coordinates. Jake, combat stations throughout the ship. Sir, Danny's voice came back. If we fight, we'll burn through our power reserves in minutes. Then we'd better make those minutes count, Henry replied. He looked at the alien commander on the screen. Last chance. Let us pass peacefully or find out why the Devourers feared us. The commander laughed. It was an ugly sound. The Devourers feared nothing. You were simply the last species they hadn't consumed yet. He made a gesture off screen. All ships open fire. Destroy them. The view screen went dark as the channel closed. Immediately, 6 Supremacy ships opened fire. Energy beams and missiles streaked through space toward the Endeavor. Shields up, Lisa called out. Brace for impact. The first hit slammed into the Endeavor's shields. The ship shook violently. Lights flickered, but the shields held. Barely. Return fire, Henry commanded. Pete, target their lead ship. Give them everything we've got. Pete's hands flew across his weapons console. The Endeavor's main guns, silent for 70 years, roared to life. Plasma bolts and railgun rounds shot toward the nearest supremacy vessel. The alien ship's shields flared bright as they absorbed the hits. But the Endeavor's weapons were military-grade, built to fight the Devourers. The supremacy ship's shields collapsed under the assault. Direct hit, Pete shouted. Their shields are down. Again, Henry ordered. Don't give them time to recover. Another volley fired. This time the shots tore into the supremacy ship's hull. Explosions blossomed across its surface. The ship began to drift, trailing atmosphere and debris. One down, Jake reported from his security station. 5 to go. But the other 5 ships had spread out surrounding the Endeavor. They fired from multiple angles. The shields strained under the constant barrage. Shields at 40%, Lisa called out. We can't take much more of this. Nina, Henry said, evasive maneuvers. Don't let them get a clean shot. Nina's hands danced across her console. The Endeavor, despite its size and damage, began to move in ways that shouldn't have been possible. She used the ship's damaged sections as decoys, angling them toward the enemy while keeping the vital areas protected. She spun the ship, using its momentum to dodge incoming fire. The supremacy ships tried to track her movements but couldn't. They were used to fighting enemies who flew in straight lines, who followed standard tactics. Nina threw out the rulebook. She flew like someone who had learned in the chaos of war, where improvisation meant survival. 2 ships moving to flank us, Jake warned. I see them, Henry said. He tapped his communicator. Danny, I need more power to the rear shields. I'm pulling from life support, Danny responded. You've got 2 minutes before the air starts getting thin. That'll do, Henry said. He turned to Pete. Target those flanking ships. Fire on my mark. The Endeavor spun again. For a moment, its most damaged section faced the enemy. The supremacy ships concentrated their fire there, thinking they had found a weak point. But it was a trap. As soon as they committed to their attack, Nina rolled the ship. The Endeavor's undamaged broadside came to bear. Mark, Henry shouted. Pete fired. Every weapon on that side of the ship fired at once. The 2 flanking supremacy vessels, caught off guard, took the full force of the attack. One's shields collapsed immediately. The other held but was severely damaged. Incoming, Lisa suddenly screamed. Boarding pods! 2 small craft had launched from one of the supremacy ships. They were heading straight for the Endeavor's hull, moving too fast for the point defense weapons to track. They're trying to board us, Henry realized. Jake, get your teams to the breach points. Don't let them take this ship. Jake was already moving. On it, Captain. All security teams, this is Morrison. We've got hostiles incoming. Defend the ship. The boarding pods hit the Endeavor's hull with metallic clangs that echoed through the ship. Cutting torches began burning through the exterior armor. In 3 locations across the ship, supremacy soldiers would soon be pouring through. Jake reached the first breach point with a team of 5 crew members. They took cover behind corridor corners and cargo containers, weapons ready. The sound of cutting grew louder. Then, with a shower of sparks, a section of wall fell inward. Supremacy soldiers rushed through, weapons firing. The fight was brutal and close. The supremacy soldiers were well-trained and heavily armed. But Jake's team fought with desperate determination. This was their ship. Their home. They would not surrender it. Grenades, Jake shouted. 2 crew members threw flashbang grenades into the breach. The supremacy soldiers stumbled, blinded and disoriented. Jake's team opened fire. 3 aliens fell. The others retreated back through the breach. Seal it, Jake ordered. 2 crew members rushed forward with emergency seal foam. They sprayed the breach point and the foam hardened instantly, blocking the opening. At the second breach point, Carmen led the defense. She was a medical officer, not a soldier, but she had trained in basic combat like everyone else. When the supremacy troops came through, she and her team held them off long enough to seal the breach. The third breach was different. It opened directly into the engine room where Danny and his team were working. The supremacy soldiers rushed in, hoping to sabotage the reactor or take control of engineering. Danny grabbed a plasma torch and swung it like a weapon. Not today, he shouted. He drove the soldiers back while his team threw whatever they could find. Tools, spare parts, even empty containers. It was chaos, but it worked. The soldiers retreated and Danny's team sealed the breach. On the bridge, Henry watched his crew fight and felt pride surge through him. This was humanity. Not the strongest or the fastest or the most advanced, but the most determined. The most stubborn. The species that simply refused to die. "Captain," Kate said urgently, "I'm picking up a signal. It's the Council fleet. They're jumping in to help us." On the view screen, 3 Council warships appeared. They immediately engaged the Supremacy vessels, drawing fire away from the Endeavor. "About time," Pete muttered. "Captain, what are your orders?" Henry studied the tactical display. The Endeavor was badly damaged. Shields were at 15%. Power reserves were critical, but they had disabled 2 Supremacy ships and damaged a third. The arriving Council ships were evening the odds. "We finished this," Henry said. "All remaining power to weapons. Pete, target the damaged ship. 1 good hit should take it out." "Sir." Danny's voice came through, strained and exhausted. "I'm giving you everything I've got. But after this, we're done. We'll have just enough power left for 1 emergency jump." "1 jump is all we need," Henry replied. "Fire!" The Endeavor's weapons blazed 1 final time. The already damaged Supremacy ship couldn't withstand the assault. Its reactor went critical. The explosion was visible even through the view screen's filters, a bright bloom of light that faded quickly into the darkness of space. 3 down, Lisa reported. "The remaining 3 are breaking off. They're retreating." "Let them go," Henry ordered. "Nina, plot that emergency jump. Get us out of here." But before Nina could execute the jump, one of the retreating Supremacy ships fired a final, spiteful volley. The shots hit the Endeavor's weakened shields. 1 got through. The explosion tore through the port side of the ship. Alarms blared. Red lights flashed everywhere. The deck tilted as the ship lost attitude control. "Hull breach on decks 5 and 6, Lisa shouted. "We're venting atmosphere." "Emergency bulkheads," Henry commanded. "Seal those sections." Throughout the ship, heavy doors slammed shut, containing the damage. But 3 crew members had been in those sections. Tony Walsh from engineering, Sarah Kim from navigation, and Pete Collins at his weapons station, which was located in the damaged area. "Pete," Henry called out. "Pete, respond, static." Then a weak voice came through. "Still here, Captain. But I'm trapped. The door's jammed, and I'm losing air fast." "Hold on," Henry said. "We're coming for you." He turned to Jake. "Morrison, take a team. Get Collins out of there." Jake ran. He grabbed 2 crew members and emergency cutting equipment. They reached the sealed door in minutes. Through a small window, they could see Pete slumped in his chair. The room beyond was partially depressurized. Ice crystals floated in the air. "We need to cut through," Jake said. "But if we open this door, we'll depressurize this whole section." "Then we suit up and work fast," one of the crew members said. They put on emergency suits and began cutting. The door was thick, designed to withstand incredible pressure. It took precious minutes. Through the window, Jake watched Pete's movements become weaker. "Come on," Jake muttered. "Come on, hold together." The door finally gave way. Jake rushed through, grabbed Pete, and dragged him back. The crew member behind him resealed the opening with emergency foam. Carmen was waiting with medical equipment. She checked Pete quickly. "He's alive, barely. We need to get him to medical bay now." The Council provided them with a repair station. It was a massive structure floating in the darkness, built to service multiple ships at once. The Endeavor limped into one of its docking bays, held in place by tractor beams and magnetic clamps. For the first time in weeks, Henry allowed himself to rest. He sat in his quarters, which were small and Spartan. A bed, a desk, a small bathroom. The walls were bare metal, but it was his space, and after everything they had been through, it felt like luxury. There was a soft knock on his door. "Come in," Henry called. Lisa entered, carrying 2 cups of coffee. Real coffee, not the 70-year-old powder they had been drinking. She handed one to Henry and sat down across from him. "The Council really knows how to make coffee," Lisa said. Henry took a sip and sighed. It was good. Better than good. "How are the crew?" "Tired, scared, but determined," Lisa said. "Pete is stable. Carmen says he'll recover fully. Sarah Kim is healing. She'll be back on duty in a few days. And the others are coping. Jake has them running drills, keeping them busy." "And you?" Henry asked. "How are you holding up?" Lisa was quiet for a moment. "I keep thinking about Tony Walsh. He was 23 when we went into cryo. Just a kid. He should have had a whole life ahead of him. Instead, he woke up 70 years later and died in a battle he never chose to fight. I think about him too, Henry said softly, and about everyone else we've lost. But Tony knew what he signed up for when he joined the crew. We all did. Sometimes the war doesn't end just because you want it to. Is that what this is? Lisa asked. Still the same war? I don't know, Henry admitted. Maybe, or maybe it's a new war. But either way, we have to see it through. We have to get home. Over the next 3 weeks, the Endeavour underwent extensive repairs. The Council provided materials and expertise that would have taken Danny's team months to replicate. Hull breaches were sealed, damaged systems were replaced or rebuilt. The shields were upgraded to modern Council standards. Even the weapons systems were enhanced with new targeting computers and more efficient power distribution. Danny worked alongside alien engineers, learning from them and teaching them in return. One day, Seklar, the Vrin engineer, approached him with a question. Engineer Rodriguez, I have studied your repair methods. I understand the technical principles, but I do not understand the philosophy. You often use improvised solutions that work, but violate standard engineering practices. Why? Danny thought about it while he worked on a power conduit, because sometimes standard practices don't work. In the war against the Devourers, we couldn't always get proper parts or tools. We had to make do with what we had. And we learned that a solution that works is better than a perfect solution you don't have access to. But such methods are dangerous, Seklar protested. They increase the risk of failure. Sure, Danny agreed. But no solution means certain failure. A risky solution at least gives you a chance. Humans are good at taking chances. Seklar's head tilted. A gesture Danny had learned meant the alien was processing information. I think I understand. You accept calculated risk because the alternative is unacceptable. Exactly, Danny said. You've got it. While the ship was being repaired, Henry met with Kara and other council representatives. They wanted to understand what had happened during the battle with the Supremacy. They wanted to know how one damaged ship had defeated 6 modern warships. We studied the battle data, Kara said. They were in a conference room on the station. Holographic displays showed the fight from multiple angles. Your tactics were highly unusual. You used your ship's damaged sections as decoys. You executed maneuvers that should have torn your ship apart. And your boarding defense was exceptionally fierce. We fought to survive, Henry said simply. That's what humans do. But the Supremacy ships were more advanced, another council member said. This one was a Hive Collective representative, speaking through a translation device. They had better weapons, better shields, better everything. By all calculations, they should have won. Calculations don't account for determination, Lisa said. She was sitting next to Henry. The Supremacy fought to win. We fought to survive. There's a difference. Scholar Pip, who had been observing quietly, spoke up. I have studied human military history extensively. In your records, there are countless examples of smaller forces defeating larger ones through superior motivation and tactics. The Battle of Thermopylae, the Siege of Bastonia, the stand at Thermopylae Station during the Devourer War. Humanity has a pattern of refusing to accept defeat. It's not always a good thing, Henry said quietly. Sometimes refusing to surrender just means more people die. But in this case, surrender wasn't an option. So we fought. The galaxy is taking notice, Kira said. Word of your battle has spread. Some species are frightened. They remember what humanity was capable of during the war. Others are inspired. The Supremacy has been expanding unchecked for years. Seeing them defeated has given hope to many. We didn't do it for the galaxy, Henry said. We did it to survive, to get home. Nevertheless, Kara replied, you have affected things. The Supremacy will not forget this. They may seek revenge. Let them come, Jake said. He was standing near the door, having joined the meeting late. We'll be ready, but Henry shook his head. No, we've fought enough. When repairs are complete, we're jumping straight to Earth. No more detours. No more battles. We're going home. The meeting ended and the crew returned to their duties. But Henry's words about going home had spread through the ship. The crew talked about nothing else. What would Earth be like? Would anyone remember them? Would there be anyone left who cared? Nina spent hours studying the updated star charts the council had provided. She plotted and replotted their course, looking for the fastest and safest route. Finally, she came to Henry with her findings. Captain, I've got our course. 2 more jumps. The first takes us to the edge of council space. The second brings us into the Sol system. Total travel time, assuming no complications, is about 5 days. 5 days, Henry repeated. After 70 years, we're 5 days from home. Yes, sir, Nina said. She hesitated, then added, Captain, what if Earth doesn't want us? What if they see us as relics from a war they're trying to forget? It was a question Henry had been avoiding, but it deserved an answer. Then we'll deal with it. But Nina, Earth is our home. No matter how it's changed, no matter what they think of us, it's where we belong. We'll find our place there. Somehow. On the day they were scheduled to depart, the crew gathered in the main hangar bay. The council had arranged a ceremony. Representatives from multiple species were present. Even some of the Kellery warriors who had escorted them joined. Kara spoke first. Captain Henry Blake and crew of the Endeavor, you have shown us something we had forgotten. You have shown us courage, determination, and honor. You fought against impossible odds and prevailed. On behalf of the Galactic Council, we thank you, and we wish you safe journey home. There was applause, strange and varied as different species expressed approval in their own ways. Some clapped. Others hummed. Some flashed lights or changed colors. Then Scholar Pip stepped forward. The small alien looked up at Henry. Captain, I have one more question before you go. During the battle, you knew you were outmatched. You knew you might die. Yet you fought anyway. Why? Henry thought about it. He thought about Tony Walsh, who had died defending the ship. About Pete Collins, who had nearly died but refused to give up. About every member of his crew who had fought because they had no other choice. Because surrender means giving up everything we are. Henry finally said, our ship, our mission, our identity as humans. We couldn't allow that. So we fought.
Not because we thought we would win,
but because not fighting was unthinkable. Pip nodded slowly. I understand. Thank you, Captain. Safe travels. The ceremony ended, and the crew returned to the Endeavor. The ship had been transformed. It still bore scars from the battle, but it was clean, repaired, and ready. The reactor hummed with steady power. The weapons were calibrated. The shields were at full strength. And the faster-than-light drive was charged and waiting. Henry sat in his command chair on the bridge. Around him, his crew took their positions. Danny in engineering, Nina at navigation, Kate at communications, Lisa at tactical, Jake at security. They were ready. All systems green, Danny reported. We're ready to jump whenever you give the word. Docking clamps released, Nina added. Courses plotted and locked in. Henry looked at the view screen at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, past the darkness and distance, was Earth. Home. After 70 years of sleep and weeks of struggle, they were finally going back. Take us out, Henry ordered. Nice and easy. The Endeavor disengaged from the repair station. It drifted clear using maneuvering thrusters. Once they were at a safe distance, the main engines engaged. The ship accelerated smoothly. Jump in 30 seconds, Nina counted down. 20, 10, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, jumping now. Reality twisted. The stars stretched into lines. Then the ship was in faster-than-light travel, crossing distance in moments that would take light years to traverse conventionally. When they emerged, they were at the edge of Council space. Before them lay a vast expanse of relatively empty space, and beyond that, still invisible but getting closer, was the Sol system. One more jump. The Earth Defense Command gave them coordinates for a high-orbit station. It was massive, much larger than the old stations Henry remembered. As the Endeavor approached, they could see dozens of ships around it. Patrol vessels, cargo haulers, and smaller craft moving between Earth and its moon. It's busier than I expected, Nina observed. I thought you said Earth was isolationist. Within the solar system, yes. Kara's voice came through from her ship, which had followed them through the jump. They maintain active colonies on Mars, the Moon, and several asteroid settlements. But they do not venture beyond. As they got closer to the station, Kate began receiving more signals. Captain, I'm getting news broadcasts. Apparently, word of our arrival has spread fast. Everyone knows we're here. What are they saying? Henry asked. Kate listened for a moment. Mixed reactions. Some people are excited. They're calling us heroes, survivors. Others are worried. They're saying we might bring back the violence of the war. And some are just curious. They want to know what we've been through. We'll have plenty of time to tell them, Henry said. For now, let's just get docked safely. The station's docking procedures were complex and thorough. The Endeavor was scanned multiple times. Biohazard teams checked for contaminants. Military officers verified their identities using old codes and records. It took 3 hours before they were finally cleared to disembark. Henry led his crew off the ship. They walked through a docking tube into the station, and there waiting for them was a crowd. Dozens of people, human people, standing behind a barrier. When they saw Henry and his crew emerge, they erupted in cheers. "Welcome home," someone shouted. "We never forgot you," another voice called. Henry felt tears in his eyes. He had expected suspicion, maybe even hostility. But this was welcome. Pure and simple. These people were happy to see them. A woman in a military uniform approached. She was young, maybe 30 years old. She saluted crisply. "Captain Blake, I'm Commander Victoria Cross of Earth Defense. On behalf of the Unified Earth Government, welcome home." Henry returned the salute. "Thank you, Commander. It's good to be back. I'm sure you and your crew are exhausted," Victoria said. "We have quarters prepared for you. Food, medical care, whatever you need. But first, if you're willing, there are some people who would very much like to meet you." "Who?" Henry asked. Victoria smiled. "Families." Henry's heart skipped. "Families?" "Our families. Some of them," Victoria said gently. "Not everyone survived, of course. 70 years is a long time. But some did. Children and grandchildren. They've been waiting to meet you." The crew was taken to a large meeting hall. It was decorated simply with flags and banners welcoming them home. And there, waiting, were about 20 people, old and young. They stood nervously, looking at the crew with a mixture of hope and fear. "Jake Morrison?" An elderly woman called out. She was small and frail, her hair completely white, but her eyes were bright. Jake stepped forward. "Yes, I'm Mary Morrison," the woman said. "Your sister. You left me when I was 8 years old. I'm 78 now." Jake stared at her. His little sister, who he remembered as a giggling child, was now older than he was. "Mary, oh God, Mary." He rushed forward and embraced her gently. Both of them were crying. One by one, crew members found their relatives. Danny met his grandson, a man in his 40s who worked as an engineer just like Danny. Carmen met her great-niece, a young doctor who had followed in her footsteps. Lisa met her brother's children, who told her stories about how their father had never stopped believing she would come home. Not everyone had family waiting. Some crew members stood alone, their entire families lost to time, but the other families welcomed them too, including them in reunions and conversations. No one was left alone. Henry stood to the side, watching his crew reconnect with a world they had left behind. He felt happy for them, but also empty. His own parents had been old when he left. They were certainly gone now. He had no siblings, no children. His family was his crew, and they were finding their place in this new world. But where did that leave him? "Captain Blake?" a voice said behind him. Henry turned. An old man stood there leaning on a cane. He was thin and weathered, but his eyes were sharp. "Yes? My name is George Baker," the man said. "I served under you on the Endeavor. I was a junior engineer before we entered the battle where you were presumed lost." Henry searched his memory. Baker. Yes, he remembered. A young man, talented but inexperienced. "Baker, you survived?" "I was on a shuttle running supplies between ships," George said. "When the order came to retreat, my shuttle was already away from the fleet. I made it back to Earth. I've spent 70 years wondering what happened to you all." "We fought," Henry said simply. "We won, but we were too damaged to get home. So we went into cryo-sleep and drifted until our emergency systems woke us up." George nodded slowly. "I heard about your journey back, about the battle with the Supremacy. You haven't lost your edge, Captain." "I hope we can," Henry admitted. "I hope we can finally stop fighting and just live." "Maybe you can," George said. "The galaxy is different now, quieter, but Captain, there's something you should know. Earth may be isolationist, but we still have enemies. Pirates, raiders, and groups who think Earth is weak because we chose peace. Your return and what you did to get here has reminded everyone that humanity knows how to fight when we need to." "That's not necessarily a good thing," Henry said. "Maybe not," George agreed. "But it's true. And truth matters." Over the next few days, the crew adjusted to their new reality. They underwent medical examinations. They gave reports about their journey. They spoke with historians who wanted to record their experiences. And slowly, they began to understand the Earth they had returned to. The war with the Devourers had devastated the planet. Billions had died. Cities had been destroyed. But humanity had rebuilt. The population was now around 5 billion, living in cities that mixed old architecture with new. Technology had advanced in some ways but regressed in others. The weapons of the war era were considered too dangerous, so Earth had focused on defensive systems instead. "It's strange," Nina said one evening. They were in a common area on the station, looking down at Earth below. "We went to sleep in a world at war. We woke up in a galaxy at peace. And now we're home in a world that's healing. Do you think we'll fit in?" Carmen asked. "We're soldiers from a war everyone wants to forget." "We'll find a way," Lisa said firmly. "We always do." But the question of what they would do next weighed on all of them. Earth Defense had offered them positions in the military, but most of the crew wasn't interested. They had fought enough. Jake was considering teaching combat tactics at a military academy. Danny wanted to work with Earth's engineers, sharing what he had learned. Carmen planned to practice medicine again, this time without the constant pressure of war. Henry, however, had no idea what to do. He was a ship captain without a ship, a warrior in a time of peace. He felt lost. 1 week after their arrival, Henry was summoned to meet with Earth's governing council. He put on his dress uniform and traveled down to the planet's surface for the first time in 70 years. The shuttle ride down was surreal. He could see the scars of war still visible on the surface, craters where cities had been, forests growing over abandoned military bases, but he could also see new cities, green spaces, and signs of life. The council met in Geneva, in a building that had somehow survived the war. Henry was escorted into a large chamber where 7 people sat at a curved table. They represented Earth's major population centers and governing bodies. The council chair, an older woman named Helen Park, spoke first. "Captain Blake, thank you for coming. We wanted to speak with you personally about the Endeavor and your crew." "Of course," Henry said.
How can I help?
"Your ship represents something important," Helen said. "Technology and knowledge from the war era that we no longer possess. We lost so much when the Devourers attacked. Your ship could help us rebuild some of what was lost." "You want to study the Endeavor?" Henry said. It wasn't a question. "Yes," another council member said. This was a younger man named David Chen. "We want to understand its systems, its weapons, its design. Not to build new weapons, but to improve our defenses, to make sure Earth is never vulnerable again." "And what about my crew?" Henry asked. "What about us?" "You'll be honored," Helen said. "Given positions of respect, financial security, whatever you need. But Captain, we need to ask something of you. Will you help us? Will you share what you know?" Henry thought about it. They wanted the Endeavor. They wanted to tear apart his ship and learn from it. Part of him wanted to refuse, to protect the last piece of his old life. But another part understood. The ship was just metal and circuits. What mattered was the knowledge it carried. If that knowledge could help Earth stay safe, wasn't that worth preserving? "I'll help," Henry said. "On one condition. My crew gets to decide for themselves what they want to do. No pressure. No obligations. They've earned the right to choose their own paths." "Agreed," Helen said immediately. "And Captain, there's something else. We want to establish a memorial for all the ships and crew who went out to fight the Devourers and never came back. The Endeavor will be preserved as part of that memorial. Future generations will see it and remember what you all sacrificed." The first year after their return passed quickly. Henry found himself busier than he had ever been during the war. Earth's governing council wanted his input on defensive strategies. Universities wanted him to lecture about the Devourer War. News organizations wanted interviews. And civilian groups wanted him to speak about leadership and survival. At first, he accepted everything. He felt obligated to share what he knew. But after a few months, he realized he was exhausted. The constant attention, the endless questions, the weight of being a symbol rather than just a person, it was wearing him down. One morning, he declined an interview request and instead took a shuttle down to Earth's surface. He wanted to see the planet, not from orbit or from lecture halls, but as a person walking on solid ground. He landed in what used to be called the Pacific Northwest. The region had been heavily damaged during the war, but nature had reclaimed much of it. Forests grew thick and green, rivers ran clean. Small communities dotted the landscape, living simply and peacefully. Henry walked into one such community. It was a town of maybe 200 people. They lived in modest houses built from local materials. Gardens grew vegetables. Children played in a central square. It was peaceful and normal, and Henry realized he had never experienced anything like it. An older man working in a garden noticed him. "You look lost, friend."
Can I help you?
"Just passing through," Henry said. "Wanted to see the world." "Long way from anywhere to be just passing through," the man observed. He stood and brushed dirt from his hands. "Name's Carl Graham. You hungry? My wife makes excellent stew." Henry was about to decline, but then he thought about it. When was the last time he had just sat and shared a meal with someone who didn't want anything from him? "I'd like that." "Thank you." Carl's home was small but comfortable. His wife, Linda, welcomed Henry warmly. They shared lunch together, and the conversation was wonderfully ordinary. They talked about the weather, about their grandchildren, about the garden and what was growing well this year. "You're that captain, aren't you?" Linda said halfway through the meal. "The one who came back from the war." Henry tensed, expecting the usual questions. But Linda just smiled. "Must be strange being home after so long." "It is," Henry admitted. "Everything's different. I don't quite know where I fit anymore." "No one really fits anywhere at first," Carl said. "You just keep trying until you find your place." "Took me years to figure out I belonged here, growing vegetables and fixing roofs. But I got there eventually." "You will too." After lunch, Henry helped Carl with some garden work. It was simple, physical labor. Digging, planting, watering. No tactical decisions. No life or death choices. Just work that made things grow. Henry found it peaceful. That evening, as he prepared to leave, Linda gave him a small bag of vegetables from their garden. "Come back any time," she said. "You're always welcome here." Henry carried those vegetables back to his quarters on the station. He kept the bag where he could see it. A reminder that there was a world beyond duty and obligation, a world where people just lived and were content. Meanwhile, his crew continued to build their new lives. Jake's academy classes were popular. His students were eager to learn, and he discovered he had a talent for teaching.
He made them understand not just how to fight,
but why fighting should always be the last option. One day, one of his students asked him, "Lieutenant Morrison, when you fought the supremacy ships, weren't you scared?" "Terrified," Jake admitted honestly. "Fear is natural, but you can't let it control you. You acknowledge it, then you focus on what needs to be done. That's not bravery, that's just doing your job." "But you could have surrendered," the student said. "You were outnumbered." "Surrendering meant giving up everything we were," Jake explained. "Sometimes you have to stand and fight, not because you think you'll win, but because the alternative is unacceptable. That's a lesson I hope you never have to learn firsthand. But if you do, I hope you remember it." Danny's work with Earth's engineers was producing results. They had designed a new generation of civilian ships that were faster and more efficient than anything currently in use. These ships would help Earth expand its presence in the solar system without requiring military technology. "You've done good work," Henry told him during a visit to Danny's workshop. "These ships will help a lot of people." "That's the idea," Danny said. He was working on a scale model, adjusting tiny components with tools. "I spent so many years building things to destroy. It feels good to build things that help instead. Do you miss it?" Henry asked. "The endeavor, I mean." "The way things were," Danny thought about it. "Sometimes. But mostly no. The ship was home because we made it home. Because we had each other. But it was also a tomb in a lot of ways. We were living in the past, literally. Here, we're part of the present. Part of the future. That feels right." Carmen's clinic had become a center for treating not just cryo-sleep effects, but all kinds of trauma. She found that many of Earth's citizens still carried psychological wounds from the war. Her experience dealing with combat stress made her uniquely qualified to help them. "The war ended 70 years ago," one patient told her. "Why do I still have nightmares about it?" "Because trauma doesn't follow a timeline," Carmen explained gently. "Your mind experienced something terrible and it's still processing that. It's okay to take time to heal. It's okay to need help. That's what I'm here for." She often thought about how her role had changed. During the war, she had patched people up so they could go back to fighting. Now she helped people recover so they could live full lives. The change felt profound and meaningful. Nina had taken her navigation skills in an unexpected direction. She was working with Earth's space traffic control, helping to coordinate the movement of thousands of ships throughout the solar system. But she was also mapping asteroids and comets, identifying potential threats long before they could endanger Earth. "It's detailed work," she told Henry during one of their regular meetings. "Not as exciting as faster-than-light jumps through hostile space. But it matters. Every threat I identify early is a disaster prevented. You always did have a talent for seeing the path forward, Henry said, even when the rest of us were lost. Kate's communication work had taken her in a fascinating direction. She was part of a team that monitored signals from beyond Earth's solar system. They were listening for any signs of the Devourers returning, but they were also learning about the wider galaxy. There's so much happening out there, Kate told Henry excitedly. The Council is expanding. New species are joining. Trade is flourishing. And Captain, they talk about us. About humanity. We're legendary. For the wrong reasons, Henry said. Maybe, Kate admitted. But legends can be rewritten. We showed them that humans can choose peace too. That we're not just warriors. We're survivors who chose to come home instead of staying at war. Lisa had perhaps the most challenging role. As a coordinator for Earth's defense, she had to balance preparing for threats with maintaining the peaceful approach Earth had adopted. It was a difficult balance. The Council wants me to develop defense plans for every possible scenario, she told Henry one evening. They were having dinner together, something they did regularly, but half of them don't want to spend resources on military preparedness. They think the threat is past. What do you think? Henry asked. I think peace is wonderful, Lisa said. But peace only lasts as long as everyone respects it. The supremacy didn't respect it. There might be others out there who don't either. We need to be ready. But not aggressive, Henry said. No, not aggressive. Just ready? There's a difference. As the first year became the second year, Henry noticed something interesting. His crew, the people who had been with him through everything, were thriving. They had found their places in this new world. They were building lives that mattered, but he still felt adrift. He enjoyed his advisory role, but it didn't feel like enough. He was helping shape policy and strategy, but he missed having a direct purpose. He missed leading people toward a clear goal. The answer came from an unexpected source. Ambassador Kara had remained in Earth's solar system, serving as the primary liaison between Earth and the Galactic Council. She had become friends with Henry over the months, and one day she approached him with a proposal. Captain Blake, she said, the Council has a problem. We need someone to help coordinate relations between Earth and the galaxy, someone who understands both human and alien perspectives, someone with experience navigating difficult situations. You want me to be a diplomat? Henry asked, surprised. Not exactly, Kara said. We want you to be a bridge. Earth is slowly opening up again. Small trade missions, cultural exchanges, scientific cooperation, but there's still distrust on both sides. Humans remember the war and worry about alien threats. Aliens remember human ferocity and worry about aggression. You've experienced both worlds. You could help them understand each other. Henry thought about it. It was a role that would challenge him, that would give him purpose. And most importantly, it would let him use his experiences to build something positive rather than just remembering what was lost. I'll do it, he said, but I'll need help. My crew has learned a lot about working with different species. Let me bring some of them in. Of course, Kara agreed. Over the next few months,